Hello everyone and welcome to All Things Watched. In this video we are going to talk about the brand new action-packed movie Monkey Man, and this movie was actually written and directed and also even starred by Dev Patel, and he portrays a character known as Kid, who very early on ends up getting the nickname Monkey Man, and the reason for that is basically because of his profession. He ends up going into these almost like underground wrestling matches, or like boxing fights, I guess we'll say. Really, it's not really wrestling, it's more like, you know, beat the crap out of each other, almost like an MMA, but not really. It does seem like it's a little more restricted, but still it's underground, it's real, it's bloody, it's brutal, and all that kind of good stuff. And of course he ends up wearing a mask that looks like a monkey, and which is why he ends up getting the nickname known as Monkey Man. And of course, if you've seen the trailer for this movie, you would know how violent it looks, how gory it is. One thing I will say is that this movie did take me off guard a little bit with just how dark it goes, and I'm not so much referring to the actual violence itself. I'm more so referring to a lot of the flashbacks of especially when we learn the past of Kid or Monkey Man, when you see the reason why he's doing what he's doing, because at its core this movie is a sort of a revenge type movie about Monkey Man, who has this very traumatic past. Something happens to his mother, but when we actually see what happens to his mother, it was very hard to watch. At least I thought it was very hard to watch. It was very brutal, it was very bloody, very gory, and even the camera angles, the way that it was shot, felt very unpleasant, very uncomfortable. Now I understand that that's sort of the whole point. That's why they want you to feel this way, because they're sort of trying to justify to the audience why Monkey Man is doing what he's about to do. And of course what that is that he wants to take revenge on these people who have done this to his mother. Now these people are in very high powers. It's sort of like a corrupt system, and I believe it was in India, I believe is the actual location. And so it's not only that there was this corrupt gang that, you know, ends up hurting his mother or killing her. I guess you could say it's a small spoiler, but not really. You'll learn that pretty early on in the movie. It's not something that's revealed at the end. It's something that you'll know pretty early on in the movie, is that his mother got killed. But you'll learn that the people that did it were not just gangsters, not just corrupt men, but actually men in power as well. So it's like these gangsters, these corrupt people, ends up actually in power, in a very authoritarian way. You know, they're really pressing against the people, and really, suppressing people, and really just taking away a lot of freedoms and whatnot. And they're very dictatorial, but they're also very corrupt. And so Monkey Man's mission is to go in and get rid of this, seek revenge for his mom, and just take out all this corrupt gang. Now I will say that the violence in this, I will give credit when credit's due. There's some scenes in this where I was just thinking, I had to actually scratch my head, like, did he actually stab this person? It was so well edited that you couldn't see the cuts. You couldn't really tell that it was CGI or special effects. You couldn't see the cuts. And so that's one thing where this movie shines, I think, maybe even a little bit more than John Wick, is that it actually feels like these people are getting beaten and battered and stabbed and annihilated, really. Now I will say that I was a little bit surprised with the lack of action, but at the same time, when the action is there, it's there, so to speak. So there's really only two main action sequences. There's one that happens like halfway through the movie, and then there's one that happens at the very end of the movie, which is like the climax. Now don't get me wrong, those sequences last for a very long time, so you do still get a ton of action, plus the action scenes with Monkey Man in the ring. But I will say that there does be a point, roughly about an hour in, I guess, when Monkey Man ends up losing or getting his his butt handed to him, basically the very first time he tries to take on this organization, which is not anything too spoilery, but to make a long story short, he basically ends up trying to take them on, and he really does some serious damage, but ultimately he ends up losing. Something happens to him where he really gets almost deathly wounded, but he does survive. But when he survives and comes to, you learn that there's almost like this little underground group of people, civilization, so to speak, living in this area, and they sort of take him in, they nurture him, feed him, and bring him back to health so that he can carry on with his mission, eventually to seek revenge for his mother, but then also to sort of do away with this system and to put all these bullies, in their place. And so I did find that when we got to that area, it really went from 100 to 0. So for me, I felt like it slowed down a lot, but then it almost stayed there a little bit too long. And I'm not, that's a very minor critic to the movie. I feel like the movie could have had maybe 15 maybe not 20 minutes, but definitely 15 minutes or even 10 or 15 minutes I think could have been shaved off. There was a little moment when I thought it was a little bit long, but at the same time it was very colorful. It was really beautiful to see this culture, so I did appreciate that. Even I think they even might have intertwined some real life footage to some degree in there as well, you know, with the way that some people were getting treated and whatnot. And it was really refreshing to see this type of movie come from this type of culture, if that makes sense. You know, John Wick was really cool, but John Wick was the typical Hollywood, you know, the typical Hollywood, you know, American kind of superhero, whereas this one is in India, and you know, and it in a lot of ways relates to real life and really has a lot of relatability to it. You know, I feel like there's going to be a lot of audiences, especially in India, who might actually be able to relate to this story, or at some point may have actually felt oppression, especially maybe some of the women and whatnot, you know, who might not have the same rights, you know, over there as what we would here in the Western world and all that kind of stuff. So I do really appreciate that. It was a very beautiful culture, very cool. And it was really cool to see the underworld of India as well. And like I said, once Monkey Man lets loose, especially in that final sequence, he does not hold back. And like I said, there are times when you have to actually ask yourself, did he actually get stabbed? It's so well put together. The editing and the special effects is so well done that it really makes me made me question. Like, I never once felt like I was watching an actor. I felt like this was Monkey Man and he was actually, you know, ripping through these people in real life. I think I read online somewhere as well that this was like initially intended to be like a Netflix movie or something, so I can't imagine seeing this, you know, on Netflix. I mean, it's just such a high budget, even though they made it on a low budget. It's not like a big $500 million movie, but what they, you know, how they utilize their money. Honestly, I thought it was phenomenal, and I think Dev Patel did a phenomenal job with his acting. All the performances were great, and like I said, the only nitpick is that I maybe would shave 10 to 15 minutes off, and I did feel like the story, it wasn't really, you know, it's not a story that you haven't seen before. This is not something that's brand new. It's just, I think, you know, it's just, I don't know, I think what makes it different is the culture and, you know, and just the motivation. You know, John Wick lost his dog. In this case, you know, he loses his mother, and I just thought it was really cool. And I loved hanging out with Monkey Man, and honestly, if they made a sequel, I would definitely watch it. And I would highly recommend you see this one in theaters on a big screen and watch the action, because it is just, when the action is going, it's going. It's just pedal to the metal, and honestly, I would highly recommend this movie. But with that being said, folks, that's my review of the brand new movie Monkey Man. So let me know in the comment section below if you've seen it, and if you'd like to tell me why or why not. If you like this video, click that subscribe button, and until the next one, take care.